Welcome, gentle dreamers. Settle into a hushed place where two Disney worlds quietly intertwine. But before we start, tell me, where are you watching from tonight? Tonight, we'll drift beside Elsa's shimmering frost as it meets Moana's sunlit sea, exploring how winter and tropics share a single heartbeat. Expect slow, soothing narration, the hush of lapping waves, distant crystal chimes, and a promise that every twist melts into warmth and peace. Dawn tiptoed over Motunui like a shy visitor, brushing pale peach across the horizon and dipping its first light into every coconut grove and quiet lagoon. Most mornings that light arrived warm and honey gold, thick with bird song and the earthy perfume of flowering tiar. But this morning felt different. The air carried a hush, as though the island itself were holding its breath. When the breeze rustled through the palms, tiny puffs of white dust fluttered from each frond, little feathers of frost that did not belong in the tropics. Frost. On Motunui. An impossible pairing, like sand made of starlight. Villagers stirred from their huts, eyebrows lifting, words caught between awe and worry. Te pomata, they whispered, reviving an old legend about a mysterious night mist that drifted across the sea only once in a generation. Children traced lines on the frozen leaves, giggling at the crunch beneath their fingertips. Fishermen examined their nets to find beads of ice clinging like spun glass. Nothing seemed dangerous, only wondrous and strange. But strangeness alone could rattle an island that prized balance in every tide and season. Moana emerged from her family's house, feet bare, hair still loose from sleep. She paused on the veranda, inhaling the coolness that tickled her lungs. Silvery crystals had stitched themselves along the walkway, sparkling like constellation dust scattered at her toes. The ocean hummed in the distance, a deeper, more resonant hum than usual, as if the lagoon itself were playing a glass harp. Instead of alarm, Moana felt a flicker of joyful curiosity. Her island was greeting something new, and the sea, her oldest friend, seemed excited rather than afraid. She followed the glittering trail to the shoreline where waves lapped in gentle arcs of turquoise and foam. There, at the water's edge, she found the source of the murmurs. A lacework of ice crystals floated atop the tide, drifting in and out with the breath of the sea. Each shard was as delicate as a spider's web, catching dawnlight and splitting it into pastel rainbows. Moana kneeled, brushing her knuckles across the surface. Instead of melting at her warmth, the ice chimed, soft, musical, before swirling back into its perfect pattern. Something ancient stirred inside her, the same tug she had felt years ago when the ocean first chose her. The tide teased her ankles, almost begging, "Come see." Moana's heart quickened. She did not sense danger. She sensed invitation. But invitations carry stories, and no one knew more stories than Grandma Tala. Moana hurried through the waking village, frost crunching underfoot, until she reached the gently swaying hut where Tala's wind chimes sang every morning greeting. Inside, the elder sat cross-legged on a woven mat, draping shells onto a half-finished mobile shaped like a manta ray. Even before Moana spoke, Tala lifted her gaze, eyes full of dawn's reflection. "I wondered how long it would take you to come," she said, voice as soft as a lullaby. Moana described the ice along the shore, the ocean's strange resonance, and the shimmering frost that painted Motunui's green leaves silver. She expected questions. Instead, Tala smiled, a deep, knowing smile that carried the weight of many tides. "There is a tale older than the constellations we sail by," Tala began. She reached for a small wooden chest carved with swirling patterns of wind and wave. From it, she withdrew a weathered tapa scroll inked in charcoal and sea blue dye. Long ago, travelers spoke of Etu Isa, snow spirits who wandered far horizons. They were keepers of balance, weaving cool silence into places that burned too bright. but they rarely ventured to warm seas, unless called. Called by what? Moana asked, breath catching between wonder and worry. By the ocean itself, Tala replied, tapping the shell mobile so it rang like tiny bells. When water feels a shift in its own story, when it needs another element to keep harmony, it reaches across the wind and beckons the spirit best suited to help. Moana pictured the ice crystals dancing at the tide line, each one shimmering with its own tiny heartbeat. If the ocean had indeed called, then someone, or something, had answered. Tala unrolled the scroll further, revealing a sketch of a figure cloaked in swirling snow, hair braided like a river of moonlight. Luminous flakes circled her palms. The drawing felt both ethereal and real, as though ink alone could not contain the chill of her presence. Underneath, in Tala's careful script, ran a single phrase: "She who carries winter where winter never was." Moana traced the outline. The parchment felt cool beneath her fingertip. A question bloomed in her chest. A question bigger than her fear of the unknown, bigger even than her duty as future chief. Who is she? And why has she come so far? Tala's voice softened. You have listened to the ocean before, Moana. Will you listen now? Moana's answer came in a heartbeat, not from her mind, but from the gentle pull at her ribs that had guided her across monster realms and horizon lines. Yes, she whispered, feeling the words settle like a pebble at the bottom of a calm pool. She rose and strode back toward the shore. Along the way, she signaled several villagers to ready her greatest outrigger, sleek, sturdy, sails patched with constellations. Though eyebrows lifted and concerned glances passed from one fisher to another, none questioned her. Motunui trusted Moana in matters of the sea. At the beach, frost still floated in luminous filigree. The ship's hull cut a smooth path through the ice petals, leaving a swirling wake of crystalline music. Moana loaded provisions, woven baskets of taro and breadfruit, gourds of water, her father's old paddle, and Tala's tapa scroll wrapped in waterproof bark cloth. Before pushing off, she paused, pressing her palm against the cool lagoon. The tide lifted her fingers, almost playful, then slipped away, as though guiding her gaze toward the horizon. A hush fell over the watching villagers. Even children sensed the adventure twining itself into Motunui's morning. From somewhere behind, Moana's mother called, "Follow the waves, my daughter." Her voice trembled with pride rather than fear. Moana climbed aboard, heart thumping a steady drumbeat. She exhaled into the dawn. A plume of vapor danced before her lips, another impossible sign of chill in tropical air. She set her paddle, kissed her fingers to the sail, and whispered, "Lead me." The wind answered, unfurling canvas embroidered with the motif of her ancestors' spiral. Frost crystals lifted upon the breeze like tiny paper lanterns, twirling upward until they vanished into thin sunlight. As the canoe glided away, the lagoon sang again, deep, harmonious, hopeful. The island shrank behind her, each palm dipped in glistening dew. Ahead stretched a ribbon of pale sapphire water that darkened to royal blue farther out. Somewhere beyond that gradient waited the source of the night mist, perhaps lonely, perhaps lost, perhaps longing for connection. Moana's curiosity pulsed brighter than morning sun. Who is she? Does she fear her gift? How will our island change when winter meets endless summer? She scanned the distant line where sky hugged water. A shimmer lingered there, faint but growing, like moonlight condensed into a single gleaming point. Was it a ship? A chunk of floating ice? A spirit? Her paddle dipped, rose, dipped again. Each stroke blended her own heartbeat with the ocean's bigger pulse. The outrigger cut through still water, leaving curving ripples that sparkled as frost dust settled and melted. Seabirds circled overhead, quiet, almost reverent. Even the clouds seemed to pause, cotton soft, observing this meeting of elements with gentle anticipation. Hours passed in dreamlike progression. Paddle splash, gull cry, breath in, breath out. The point on the horizon brightened, resolving into something both familiar and extraordinary, a graceful spire of ice, drifting alone on an emerald sea. It caught sunlight and fractured it into soft rainbows stretching across low clouds. The nearer Moana drew, the more she sensed two distinct heartbeats, the pulse of the ocean below and another beating within that floating palace of frost. She steadied the canoe alongside the glacier-like formation. The temperature cooled further, though the sun still shone warm above. Tiny snowflakes spiraled lazily through tropical humidity, dissolving before they touched the deck. Moana reached over the side. Water chilled her fingertips but did not sting. The ocean held the ice gently, as though presenting a precious gift to its chosen voyager. A narrow stairway, sculpted entirely of translucent blue, spiraled up the ice tower's flank. Moana's breath caught in wonder. Every step shimmered. From somewhere high inside, a soft crystalline hum resonated, like wind chimes brushed by moonbeams. Taking a deep breath, Moana secured her canoe and placed her foot on the first stair. Frost bloomed beneath her sandal but did not slip. Instead, it welcomed her weight, forming a stable path upward. With each careful step, she felt the ocean's encouragement, small waves nudging the base of the ice, rhythmically supporting her ascent. Halfway up, she paused to look back. Motunui was a faint green and gold speck, wrapped in morning haze. Yet she did not feel far from home. She felt connected to a larger circle, one that might include both island and ice, summer and winter, Moana and whoever waited inside this shimmering tower. At the final landing, she inhaled the crispest air she had ever tasted. Her exhale came out as a tiny cloud that drifted past an archway carved of smooth, swirling frost. Beyond, pale blue light swam across walls shaped like frozen waves. At the chamber's center stood a figure, slender, regal, clothed in a gown of icy filigree, silver-white hair braided down her back, bare feet upon a reflective floor of glassy snow. The figure turned. Cool teal eyes met warm brown ones. In that instant, Moana understood every whispered legend, every hush of night mist, every hush of ocean song. The snow spirit was not a monster, not a threat. She was simply another daughter of the elements, answering the same call that once guided Moana beyond her reef. Before words could form, Moana felt a quiet invitation ripple through the air. "Speak, Voyager." Her mouth softened into a smile. "I'm Moana of Motunui," she whispered, voice echoing gently within crystalline walls. "And the ocean sent me to find you." Winter met summer, frost met tide, and Chapter 1 settled into a peaceful hush, ready for the next wave of the tale. A quiet hush settles over the mid-ocean morning, as though the world itself has paused between heartbeats. Moana's outrigger glides forward, its prow slicing a mirror-flat surface so clear she can see the sky's reflection beneath her feet. All around stretches a patch of water like molten crystal. No ripple, no swell, only shimmering teal lit from below by stray shafts of rising sun. The steady trade wind that usually whistles through her sail falters here, sinking into a breathless still. Even the gulls circle in curious silence, as if unwilling to disturb whatever magic has woven this glassy veil. Moana feels the canoe slow, bow dipping, hull gliding with a hush too soft for mortal ears. She lifts her paddle, noticing the drip of seawater gather at the blade's tip, form a bead, and freeze mid-fall into a perfect teardrop of ice before touching the deck. A single bead, impossible in this warm latitude, yet undeniably real, glinting like a frozen star in her palm. The ocean beneath answers with a subtle hum, the same note that guided her away from Motunui hours earlier. It grows louder now, resonant, coaxing her gaze to the heart of the glass-smooth pool. There, Drifting like a lone moon shard lies a tiny raft of pure blue ice, no larger than a fishing platform. Frosted feathers of snow cling to its ridges untouched by melt. At its center, curled as if rocked to sleep by distant winter winds, rests a young woman dressed in a gown of pale indigo silk, hair plaited in a long braid dusted with frost. Her eyelids flutter with dreaming shadows. Each exhale escapes as a silver cloud, rising and dissolving into the warm Pacific air. Around her, tiny snowflakes swirl where tropical humidity meets stolen winter, producing a ring of gentle mist that blurs sea and sky into a sleepy watercolor. Moana sets her paddle across the gunnel, anchoring the canoe's momentum with a practiced knuckle to the water. Even that soft touch sends concentric rings across the mirror surface, disturbing the quiet with riverstone ripples that glide beneath the ice raft. Up close, she can see delicate ice flowers blooming along the raft's edges, six-pointed petals sparkling with dawnlight. She feels neither danger nor dread, rather, a pull of kinship, as though the ocean is presenting a gift whose story remains unfinished. She stands, balances with ease born from a lifetime of tides, and takes a single steady breath. Warm air meets the cool fleeing from the raft, creating a swirl of steam where their worlds overlap. In that swirl, the woman's eyelids lift. Frost blue irises meet brown ones deepened by island sunrise. Time dilates. Heartbeat. Hush. Heartbeat. Until the stranger pushes herself up on trembling palms, gaze darting from the endless blue sky to the endless blue ocean that cradles her. Surprise flashes, then fear, then a softened wonder when her eyes rest again on Moana. Moana offers the smallest of smiles, the kind that means "I see you" in any language, and crouches at the canoe's edge. Her voice, low and warm, glides across the short gap. An introduction, gentle, inviting, carried on the hush of rolling breath. The woman listens, lips parted, and answers with words shaded by a northern accent, soft vowels like ice chimes, consonants crisp as winter pines. She speaks her name Elsa, and the name hangs between them like a snowflake that will never melt. A breeze stirs, tentative, as if testing boundaries. It curls around Moana's shoulders with familiar tropic heat, then sweeps across the ice raft, lifting threads of Elsa's pallid hair before vanishing in a wisp of frost. Where warmth meets chill, the air crackles, exhaling faint white plumes. Breath clouds drift from Elsa. Steam coils from the sea. The contrast is stark yet strangely harmonious. Two elements learning to breathe the same moment without breaking. The ocean, sensing communion, nudges the raft towards the canoe with a gentle undercurrent. Edges of ice meet polished wood, a whispered clink like glassware in a quiet hall. Moana steadies the contact with her hand, and frost instantly veils her fingertips, then melts, leaving only tingling coolness. Elsa, still kneeling, presses her palm to her raft's surface and murmurs in quiet awe. The raft responds by shaping a narrow, crystal-clear bridge of ice that arcs to Moana's deck. Elegant, slender, stable enough for footsteps, but thin enough that morning light passes through in shifting blues. Moana's eyes widen. She has never seen ice behave with such grace. Elsa looks equally surprised, as though the magic acts of its own accord, answering not command but need. She rises, slowly, cautiously, snowflakes drifting from her skirt in soft rings. One bare foot touches the ice bridge, cold mist springs beneath her heel. Another breath, then another step. The bridge holds, shimmering. Warm Pacific air frames her profile with a soft vapor halo. Moana meets her halfway, palm outstretched in welcome. When their fingers touch, contrast flares, heat meeting chill, and for a heartbeat, a tiny cyclone of steam spins upward, swirling with flecks of snow. No pain, just sensation. Vivid, startling, beautiful. Two daughters of elements greeting through opposite gifts. Their voices weave, mindful questions, calm answers, gentle checks for comfort. Moana shares her island name, her purpose, her vow to follow the ocean's call and keep balance. Elsa recounts her last memory, a prayer whispered in the palace of Arendelle, an experiment with portals meant to understand her power's reach, an unexpected surge of wild northern lights that ripped open a door between seas. She remembers stepping through swirling frost, then floating across a midnight sky of stars until slumber took her. Now she wakes in emerald waters beneath a lavender dawn. Moana listens, counting breaths to stay centered. She explains the legends of snow spirits told by Grandma Tala, the frost that kissed Motunui's palms at sunrise, the crystalline trail that led her here. Elsa's gaze softens, less fear now, more curiosity, edged with budding gratitude. She admits she does not know how to return home or control the portal that swept her away. But her first wish is simple: to cause no harm in a world that glows with such living warmth. Moana assures her the ocean would not bring danger by invitation. It sees heart before power, intention before accident. A plan forms between them as naturally as waves shaping shorelines. They will journey together toward Motunui, the island already touched by Elsa's dawn frost. From there, under safer skies and with guidance from Tala's stories, they can study how to open a gentler door back to Arendelle, or perhaps discover why the ocean called Elsa here at all. Their goals align: protect balance, honor gifts, welcome what the currents teach. Moana gestures to her canoe, offering safe passage. Elsa hesitates, eyes flicking across the outrigged mast, the woven nets, the prow carved with ancestral symbols. She worries her chill might crack wood or freeze sails. Moana simply places her hand upon the deck. The wood remains supple, strong, warmed by sun. The sea has its own temperature, her smile seems to say, and together we'll find the comfortable middle. Elsa exhales, releasing a plume of frost that dissolves before it reaches the mast. She steps carefully from bridge to deck, each touch of her foot leaving only a faint trace of diamond-bright frost that fades in seconds. The ocean, pleased, dissolves the ice bridge in a soft, tinkling sigh. The raft shivers, contracts, and sinks, its duty fulfilled, leaving no trace but a faint chill swirling beneath the surface, soon swallowed by waves. Side by side, they adjust the sail. Moana shows Elsa the knot her father taught her, tight yet flexible, able to slide in sudden gusts. Elsa runs a finger along the rope. Frost lingers only on the fiber's tips, then melts like dew. She marvels at the interplay of her magic with living flax, a dance of edges and warmth that neither dominates the other. The wind returns, gentle but purposeful, filling the sail with a low, sonorous hum. Sun climbs higher, gilding Elsa's braid with rose gold highlights. Moana guides the rudder, feeling the familiar pull of her island's gravitational heart. The canoe glides from the glassy patch into rolling swells. Behind them, the shimmering circle remains briefly, then ebbs into ordinary sea, as if it had never been. Ahead lies a path of cerulean water speckled with sun diamonds. Behind, a memory of ice dissolving beneath a tropical dawn. At the deck's edge, steam and frost mingle in lazy spirals, marking the boundary where their journeys began to merge. Two breaths, one cool, one warm, converge in the air and drift onward as a single gentle cloud. Moana's voice lowers into a promise meant more for the waves than for ears. They will honor each element, keep each other safe, find a way home. Or perhaps, discover a new definition of home that fits both sunlit voyaging and moon-kissed snowfall. Elsa closes her eyes, listening to the ocean's deep lullaby, feeling the canoe pulse underfoot like a giant heartbeat. She smiles, small, sincere, and lets the island wind cradle her hopes. Thus, the canoe sails on, carrying warmth and winter on the same piece of tide-polished wood, toward a horizon painted in melting blues. Currents below swirl in subtle vortices, hot meeting cold, stories meeting futures, guiding the vessel toward Motunui, where fronds still shimmer with early morning frost and villagers await the next page of an impossible tale. And above, the sky spreads wider, welcoming both sun and snowflake into its vast, silent hush. The outrigger slips past the reef at dusk, its sail painted copper by a sinking sun that glimmers along thin veins of frost left from Elsa's fingertips on the spar. Motunui rises out of quiet tide haze like a watercolor still drying, half of it glowing with the lush green Moana knows by heart, half dusted in pale glints that catch the light like hidden pearls. Hibiscus petals unfold beside tiny snowflakes that do not melt, and palm leaves bend beneath a lacework of sparkling rime. The island itself seems to breathe two temperatures at once, balmy breezes rolling off the sand and feather-light chills drifting down from unseen clouds of crystallized air. Children waiting on the beach gasp, wide-eyed as they spot Moana's canoe returning with an unfamiliar figure cloaked in pale indigo. They aren't afraid. Curiosity always outraces worry in young hearts, so they clap and scatter down the shoreline to greet the voyagers. Each footstep raises a puff of warm sand, quickly dusted in cool sparkles that swirl away before touching skin. Mothers gather baskets of taro and ripe papaya for welcome. Fishermen lean on spears, brows knitted, unsure whether to wave or pray. Moana guides the prow gently onto the sand, steadying the hull. She jumps down first, feet finding purchase on a tide line where foam meets frost. Elsa follows, bare toes lighting softly on unfamiliar shore. Immediately, the ground beneath her cools to starry silver. Every grain of sand briefly glimmers, then settles again into warm beige. A hush lifts, half awe, half caution, until Moana raises a calming hand. She introduces Elsa in a voice pitched for reassurance, speaking of the ocean's invitation, the harmony they seek, and the journey they now share. The words float across the gathering crowd like driftwood on soft waves, but questions swirl behind grateful smiles. Can the island survive both summer and winter in one breath? What if the snow grows instead of melts? What if crops fail, fish flee, water ices? Chiefs stand at the back, arms crossed, eyes deep with responsibility. Elsa senses the ripple of unease. Every time she moves, her magic trails behind, threads of ice ribboning around breadfruit trunks, curling up the bark like silvery vines. Leaves tremble beneath crystalline fringes, each cell caught between photosynthesis and hibernation. It is beautiful, yes. Twilight lanterns reflecting off diamond dust. But beauty alone will not feed villages come harvest. Moana escorts Elsa toward the council circle beneath the sacred banyan. Along the way, they pass fronds blooming half pink, half pearly white, vines strung with icicles that tinkle like wind chimes. Coconuts split by fine frost cracks that spill sweet water chilled as mountain streams. Villagers murmur blessings, worries, predictions. Some little ones reach out to catch falling flakes on their tongues, laughing when they dissolve into warmth. Others cling to parents' sarongs, unsure. Inside the circle, Chief Tui waits beside elders draped in woven mats. Fire bowls glow, casting orange pools onto the ground. Their warmth collides with Elsa's quiet chill, creating gentle curls of steam that rise into the branches like incense. Moana speaks first, voice steady but soft. She tells of the night mist, the frozen currents, the raft of ice that carried a guest who never wished to bring harm. She reminds them how the ocean has always guided Motunui toward balance, how Te Fiti herself embodies life's constant dance between rest and growth. Her words craft a bridge of understanding, plank by plank, over the waters of doubt. Chief Tui listens, eyes shifting from his daughter to the pale stranger. He questions with measured tone, does she control the frost or does the frost control her? Could crops suffer? Could storms strengthen? Elsa answers in the simplest, truest phrases she can. Her magic mirrors her feelings. When she fears, snowstorms rise. When she trusts, ice behaves like art. She confesses she is still learning, but she came with purpose, peace, not conquest. She bends low in respect, palms open, offering no weapon but sincerity. Some elders nod, hearts touched by honesty. Others remain circumspect. Generations have taught them caution. Yet it is the children, ringing the perimeter, eyes bright, who sway the air more than any speech. They tug at mats, whispering excitement over snow they can cradle in warm hands. Curiosity presses against caution, tipping the scale. Moana senses the moment's fragility. An idea sparks, part diplomacy, part celebration. She turns to Elsa. Show them what harmony looks like. Elsa pauses, lashes lowered in thought. Then she inhales, steady and slow, calling up memories of palace ballroom chandeliers glinting in winter light. Joyful memories. Safe. She lifts her hands. Cool air gathers around her palms like soft twilight. Instead of unleashing a flurry, she exhales a single note of breath that rings like a bell. From that note springs a ribbon of silver, thin as moonlight, dancing above the circle. It spirals around the banyan trunk, curling but never touching leaves. Frost blossoms across midair, forming 6-pointed petals that hover, spin, and drift downward, yet melt a foot above the torches, never landing on flame. The snowflakes shimmer, catching orange firelight and green leaf shade all at once, each tiny crystal holding both seasons inside its prism heart. Gasps turn to sighs of wonder. Even Tui's stern brow lifts. Elsa steps further, guiding the ribbon outward. It threads between breadfruit branches, weaving icy garlands that flash blue then fade to translucent glow. Where fruit hangs, she brushes a fingertip, leaving just enough chill to cool each husk without harming flesh. The breadfruit glistens, moisture condensing as perfect dew, crisping the outer texture like early morning frost on apples, while the core stays ripe and nourishing. A fisherman plucks one, tastes and nods, sweeter than before. She swirls again, and tiny snowbirds appear, sculpted from frost but flapping like gentle doves. They flutter overhead, scattering minuscule diamonds that dissolve before reaching soil. Children squeal delight, chasing sparkles that vanish into warm tummies as harmless as air. The elders exchange glances, some respectful, some humbled, most smiling softly now. Finally, Elsa quiets her hands. Snowbirds perch on unseen drafts, then fade with twinkles into dusk. The ribbon dissolves into nothing but cool fragrance, reminiscent of pine meeting sea salt. In its wake, the circle feels a breath calmer, torches still steady, banyan leaves unscorched, breadfruit trees bearing luminescent ornaments of dew ice. Moana steps forward, nodding to chiefs and villagers alike. She speaks of seasons not as rivals but as partners, how winter's rest nourishes spring's bloom, how warmth invites growth, and chill preserves it. She proposes a trial. Allow Elsa to remain under Moana's watch till next moonrise. Let her demonstrate that frost can guard fields against insects, cool freshwater during midday heat, carve reservoirs that condense potable drops from humid nights. Let the island learn from winter as winter learns from the island. Chief Tui looks out upon half-blossom, half-snowflake landscape, all lit by purple twilight and first star. He sees fear in some eyes, hope in many, wonder in most. After a pause that feels long as an ebbing tide, he nods. His decision falls like gentle rain. The trial begins tonight. A cheer rises, muted at first, swelling with drumbeats of relief. Torches are hoisted, baskets opened. Moon climbs silver, reflecting off petals and ice alike. Musicians strike bamboo poles. Rhythms echo along beach and grove. Some villagers gather near Elsa, thanking her in shy voices, offering leis of fragrant plumeria. She accepts, cheeks touched with humble color, frost shimmering where flowers kiss her shoulders but never wilting them. Magic and blossom coexist, fragrant breeze swirling with crystalline hush. As celebrations unfurl, Moana and Elsa slip to the fringe of the crowd. They watch villagers dance within rings of dual seasons, sand warm on one foot, frost-kissed on the other. Moonlight paints the scene half pearl, half gold. Elsa whispers that never has her gift felt so gentle, so welcomed. Moana replies that the ocean rarely makes mistakes. It simply waits for hearts brave enough to listen. They share quiet laughter, soft and earnest, and in the pause between notes they sense a subtle settling, an island exhaling into balance. Beyond the grove, surf rolls against shore, foamy crests glittering where stray snowflakes touch then dissolve. High in the canopy, banyan leaves rustle with twin languages, the liquid lilt of tropic night, and the faint crystalline tinkle of ice settling into stillness. Somewhere, Grandma Tala's wind chimes answer, carrying approval from ancestor spirits who once navigated these seas by faith alone. Inside that fusion of elements, Motunui begins its next chapter, a village learning to dance with two seasons at once, a snow queen discovering warmth not as threat, but as partner, and a voyager chief-to-be threading harmony between worlds. Stars wheel overhead, some blazing cold, some glowing warm, yet together they form a single sky, guiding every path home. Night settles over Motunui on velvet wings. Torches dwindle to embers, drums soften to heartbeat thumps, and the island's double-season hush lowers into a lullaby of surf and gently chiming frost. Moana sleeps in her family hut, dream drifting beneath mats scented with plumeria. Elsa rests nearby on a woven pallet, cool breath weaving tiny snow motes that glimmer in the dark like faint constellations. Outside, warm sand radiates the day's heat, while slender ribbons of moonlit frost trace silver paths between palm roots, two climates breathing, side by side. In the hush before midnight, a green glow steals across the thatched ceiling. Moana's eyelids flutter. Her dream unfurls, rolling island silhouettes beneath star-pinned skies, soft lagoons pulsing like heartbeat drums, and above everything a vast figure carved of living vines, Te Fiti herself, rising from the sea in emerald luminescence. The goddess's eyes hold galaxies. Her voice, when it comes, is neither word nor thunder but the layered hum of wind through leaves, tides against shore, fire-cracking seed pods, and stone sleeping under moss. Balance, she sings, each syllable a pulse of jade light. Balance of warmth and chill, of growth and rest, of sea salt and snow dust. The chant threads through Moana's ribcage, stirring memories of voyages past and futures unmet. Across the hut, Elsa's sleep shifts into silver-blue hues. She dreams of distant fjords, crystalline halls, and ancestors who speak in aurora ribbons. They drift above her like spirit silhouettes, braided hair and rune-stitched cloaks shimmering with northern starlight. Their song merges with Te Fiti's green hum, echoing in a harmonic minor that feels both old and newly written. They chant of crossroads where elements meet and exchange gifts without stealing from each other. They show Elsa a flickering image, a pool hidden deep in Motunui's interior, its surface half liquid jade, half mirrored ice, beating like a second heart beneath the island's skin. Two dreams stitched together. Moana stands on a shoreline of sleeping stone, Elsa beside her on a shore of hushed snow. Between them, a single symbol floats, spiral within six-pointed star, turning slowly like a compass caught in gentle tide. Spiraling motions draw them inward until they face a lagoon circled by towering vines. At its center glows a convergence, water swirling clockwise, ice swirling counterclockwise, neither extinguishing the other. Te Fiti's voice blends with the ancestral choir. Find the heart pool. Bind your gifts where they converge. Harmony will echo outward. Moana's eyes snap open. Moonbeams paint pale bars across the floor. She hears the faint hush of Elsa stirring. No words, yet they both sense the echo. They rise, stepping lightly among sleeping siblings and glowing embers. Outside, breeze carries the smell of damp soil and faint winter mint. The village dozes unaware beneath garlands of dew-iced flowers. Only crickets keep watch, chirping in a duet of warm chirrups and crisp high pings. Beneath a banyan, they confer by lantern glow. No need for long explanation. The dream already lingers between them like a shared breath. They speak instead of direction and intention. The heart pool lies inland, somewhere beyond ridge and ravine. Tala's earlier scroll hinted at an ancient spring once tended by priestesses who honored Te Fiti before the first great voyagers sailed. Over centuries, vines claimed its banks, and legend folded it into bedtime tales. Yet the dream's clarity feels truer than map or memory. They pack quietly, gourds of water cooled by Elsa's palm, strips of taro leaf wrapped around smoky fish for the trail, Moana's shell pendant that once guided her across 1,000 miles of ocean. Before dawn bleeds pink, they slip into the jungle, footsteps muted by moss breathing in two temperatures at once, warm dew rising, cool crystals falling in hush. Moonlight slants through canopy gaps, silvering hibiscus petals that wear halos of rhyme. Frogs croak low and sleepy when Elsa passes, their ponds icing in lace patterns that melt the moment her heel lifts. Fireflies swirl around Moana's braid, attracted to the warmth of her heartbeat. Faint snowflies, glinting specks formed by Elsa's exhale, twirl alongside, making soft chiming sounds like newborn bells. The path becomes a living necklace, beads of glow, beads of frost, strung on the dark thread of night. They cross a trickling creek. Water splits at Elsa's toes, one branch steaming, the other crusting in filigree frost before melting into rivulets that nourish fern roots. Moana marks the sign. Water willing to learn two songs at once. They follow the steam northward, deeper where vines hang thick as curtains, and night orchids bloom in blue-white luminescence. The forest hush is alive with chirps, hums, and far-off drumbeats of surf meeting cliff. Hours pass in soft narration of senses. Damp earth scent mixing with faint pepper of snow, leaf shadows sliding across cheeks, heartbeat rhythm guiding footfall. They trek until the moon sinks and pre-dawn washes the world in pewter. Somewhere ahead, a soft roar fills the air. Not sea, not wind, but the hush of water plunging into cavern hollows. The trees part at a limestone arch. Beyond stretches a glade lit by the green glow from the dream. A waterfall tumbles from a rocky lip, splitting into twin vales, one warm as rainfall, one chilled into drifting mist. The twin currents merge into a circular pool no wider than a meeting house, radiating faint turquoise on one side, pale cerulean on the other, yet blending seamlessly at its heart where colors twirl like braided yarn. Giant vines loop overhead, their leaves half garnet with dawn warmth, half silver with twilight frost. Everything hums, the same chord that once vibrated between goddess and ancestors. Moana's breath escapes, a mist of human wonder. Elsa's pulse quickens, sending shimmering runes across her irises. The heart pool looks exactly as dream-drawn, a living compass of two elements in dance rather than duel. They kneel opposite shores, Moana on moss warmed by sun's first blush, Elsa on stone cooled by moon's lingering kiss. Fingers touch the water simultaneously. Liquid ripples meet frost ripples, and instead of breaking, they spiral inward, painting a new symbol on the surface. Spiral embracing snowflake. A voice rises from the pool, not loud, not singular, more a layered lull, half ocean hush, half icicle chime. Balance is not silence, it says. Balance is conversation. Gifts must speak and listen, ebb and sing. They understand. The island can hold two seasons if guided by hearts that honor both. This place will be the tuning fork. Every wave of winter must resonate with every pulse of summer, here before flowing outward. Plan forms as sunrise kisses treetops. Elsa will shape a vein of ice beneath the pool, a cold artery that drinks any overflow of frost before it spreads uncontrolled. Moana will dig channels from nearby warm springs to feed the pool with steady heat, preventing ice from choking life. Together, they'll braid vines above as living conduits, roots carrying warmth downward, tendrils wicking chill upward, creating a softly breathing machine of nature and magic, a convergence engine. They map tasks in whispers, dawn gold warming their cheeks. Tools will come from villagers, stone chisels, hollow bamboo pipes, woven rope. Magic will come from trust. Elsa must let power flow gently. Moana must coax the jungle to accept new currents. By next full moon, the pool will hold a miniature universe of gentle opposites, singing harmony not just for Motunui, but for distant horizons where elements long to blend. They rise. Elsa presses a palm to her chest, feeling ancestral hymns settle into steady heartbeat. Moana turns toward village roofs peeking through foliage, imagining chiefs' faces when plan unfolds, caution dancing with hope. A single sunbeam spears through canopy, striking the pool. Steam curls, frost glistens. A brief rainbow arcs across their joined reflections. Journey back will carry heavy bundles and heavier expectations. Yet in this hush of first light they sense only ease, as if Tefiti herself cradles their intent. Leaves rustle green and silver, frogs croak warm and cold chords, fireflies and snowflies circle arm in arm. The heart pool hums one promise: when gifts share breath, the world inhales peace. Moana and Elsa step from opposite banks onto the single trail home, footprints alternating warm and cool, writing twin lines of poetry across dewy moss, a poem the island will read and remember long after the heart pool begins to sing. Dawn exhales pearl gray mist across Motunui's interior, tinting every fern with dew that shivers between two temperatures. Where Moana's footsteps fall, soil steams with familiar warmth. Where Elsa follows, frost paints filigree over moss, lacing each leaf in silver lacework before melting into iridescence. The trail ahead, once a simple hunter's track, has transformed overnight into a corridor of wonder. Vines hang heavy with crystal beads, orchids glow faintly beneath glassy mantles, and coconut palms sway beneath snow-dusted crowns that refuse to topple under weight. Flora adapts on the fly. Bark thickens, pigments deepen, sap slows, each cell rewriting its own instructions to hold both fire and ice in a single breath. They walk side by side, breaths forming twin ribbon trails, one vapor, one snowflake dust. Sun threads through canopy gaps, fracturing into green-gold rays that strike Elsa's ice and scatter tiny rainbows across every nearby trunk. Moana watches the phenomenon in calm fascination. This is learning in its truest form. Nature responding faster than any council decree. Even the birds have changed their songs. Some trill bright island notes while others whistle crisp, high harmonics that echo through iced bamboo. Halfway up a vine-wrapped slope, Moana calls a pause. She unclips a gourd, offers Elsa sweet water cooled by natural chill. They rest on a fallen log, half warm, half glazed, listening to the jungle's new cadence. Moana hums a soft refrain, a lullaby her grandmother used to sing during quiet fishing nights. The melody flows like tide water around a reef, gentle but insistent. Elsa closes her eyes, feeling the pulse of it in the base of her throat. She repeats the notes, first uncertain, then sure. Words follow, Motunui syllables about moonlit sails and ancestors' bones guiding stars. Elsa shapes them carefully, each vowel carrying a faint breath of winter. The lullaby turns bilingual, island cadence draped in northern hush. When the song fades, Elsa lifts her palm and invites Moana into her own childhood memory, a meditation technique taught by palace tutors to calm volatile magic. She exhales, summoning a single snowflake that drifts between them, rotating with deliberate grace. She instructs, inhale slowly through the center of the flake. Imagine air spiraling along every fractal arm, then exhale warmth back through mirrored pathways. Moana mirrors the exercise. Frost forms on her lashes without chill discomfort. In, out, swirl, settle. The motion links heartbeat to breath until even nearby leaves still their trembling. The forest grows quieter, as though eavesdropping on this intimate exchange of songs and silences. They continue. Path narrows into a gorge where river spray meets suspended ice threads, weaving pearly curtains that clink like tiny chimes. Elsa reaches out, fingers skimming threads. Some freeze, some melt, each interaction creating micro waterfalls that nourish moss-glowing turquoise under frost glaze. Moana marks moss patches for later study, potential medicine for fevers, perhaps even a salve for burns if it can hold chill inside warm skin. But deeper in the gorge, eyes glitter from shadowed crevices. Tiny coconut-armored figures, kakamora, shuffle among vines, wooden masks painted with teethy grins. They are drawn by the luminous frost, convinced it must be treasure. One bold scout scampers to a drooping ice cluster, chops a fist-sized shard, and carries it off like a jewel. The shard refracts morning light into dazzling prisms. Within moments, more kakamora swarm, chatter clicking, steel daggers tapping. They hack at icicles, load them into reed baskets, ignoring the plants they bruise beneath. Each stolen piece leaves leaves sagging, vines cracking under sudden weight loss. Jungle balance tilts. Moana raises a hand, signaling Elsa to hold. She knows kakamora mischief. Moths to anything shiny, rarely evil but often relentless. Springing into chase would spook them, risk damage. Instead, she draws a shell whistle from her belt, toots a gentle 3-note call used by navigators to signal low wind. Sound drifts. Kakamora pause, masks tilting. Elsa steps forward, palms glowing soft aquamarine. She curls frost from the air, shaping it into drifting snow motes that spin upward into a slow-forming snow dove, wings beating languidly. The bird glitters brighter than the stolen shards, cooing a bell tone as it circles above the thieves. Kakamora eyes round wide, some drop baskets in fascination, reaching stubby fingers skyward. At Moana's nod, she slams her paddle to earth. The ground reverberates. River water leaps into a single sculpted wave, arching around the kakamora like a transparent shell. Simultaneously, Elsa cools the wave's exterior, dusting it with feathered frost so it glows milky blue. The effect traps the coconut pirates inside a luminous dome that feels like sea glass cathedral, beautiful, harmless, undeniably attention-grabbing. They turn, mesmerized by shimmering refraction, forgetting their loot. Inside the dome, water remains warm. No kakamora suffers chill. Outside, air remains temperate. No plant suffers freeze. Moana steps to the entrance, carves a doorway with her paddle. She speaks first in calm island dialect. explains that ice is alive, not treasure. Tearing bits away could wound the jungle. Elsa then speaks in quiet crystalline tones, offering to create small frost pearls that will never melt. Gifts for Kakamora masks, if they agree to leave the living ice untouched. She raises her palm and shapes half a dozen marble-sized spheres glowing with faint aurora. The spheres spin, casting colors through the watery dome. The tiny raiders squeal in joy, nod vigorously, caps rattling. Moana releases the wave. It descends back to river, leaving only drifting mist. Elsa lets frost dissipate, freeing the gifts. Kakamora scurry forward, snatch pearls, hug them to tiny breastplates, and vanish into underbrush, their leaf boats rattling downstream with happy clatter. Jungle hush sighs relief. The duo exchange amused glances, shoulders loosening. Cooperation, the heart pool's first test answered gracefully. They press on as sun climbs. Frost recedes from open clearings, replaced by glistening dew that keeps undergrowth quenched. In shaded pockets, icicles remain, now guarded by darting lizards whose scales have adopted gradient hues, emerald into icy cayenne, camouflage bridging seasons. Birds fluff feathers against light chill, then bask on warm branches. Adaptation continues. Afternoon paints the gorge gold. Moana teaches another tune, this one a work chant that times paddle strokes with heartbeats. Elsa replies with a northern folk refrain describing auroras dancing with midnight seas. Their voices braid. Each rest stop deepens bond. Moana describes constellations used for navigation. Elsa describes how to read winter skies for migrating herds. Knowledge flows both directions like twin tributaries into one widening river. By twilight, vines thin and path widens into a slope overlooking Motunui's westward valley. In that valley, summer and winter quilt patterns flicker under rosy clouds, patches of ice-touched foliage shining silver against carpets of tropic green. The heart pool's hum is faint but pervasive, a distant gong marking each symphony step. Tomorrow they'll return with villagers to begin shaping channels and ice veins. Tonight, they set camp beneath a split-season banyan. One half leaves rustle in warm breeze, the other half whisper with crystalline tinkle. They light a small cook fire on one side, fashion a frost lantern on the other, and dine between elements. Stars emerge. Some twinkle cold blue, others warm gold. Yet from distance they share one canvas, much like the island below. As embers crackle and frost lantern glows, Moana hums her lullaby. Elsa harmonizes, weaving snowflake meditation into each pause. Sleep drifts over jungle, settling on vines, resting on ice petals, rocking both voyager and queen in balanced cradle. High above, Tefiti's silent silhouette dims into starlight. In her quiet smile, the journey's lesson shines. Cooperation writes wiser stories than conquest ever could. And so the jungle frost sleeps, confident that two hearts, one of tide, one of snow, will carry its fragile glow safely into dawn. They break out of the jungle just past first light, boots and bare feet brushing aside dew-dripped vines, and suddenly all foliage falls away. Before them spreads a hidden basin, round as a goddess's mirror, rimmed by limestone terraces streaked with mineral turquoise. At its center lies a lagoon so clear it erases the boundary between water and sky. Yet it does not hold one color. It drifts, like breath, across glass, shading from pale lilac to emerald, then flushing ember gold before fading back to dawn blue. Every hue corresponds to a feeling that rises inside the onlooker, then sinks the instant that feeling calms. It is, in essence, a liquid mood ring carved by ancient time. Moana inhales the salt-sweet air, feels her pulse quicken, and the lagoon flickers coral pink. Beside her, Elsa scans the mirrored surface with cautious wonder. Her breath slows, and the color cools to an icy celadon. They share a glance, confirmation that the water listens. They step down stone ledges softened by centuries of moss. Each footfall echoes. Each echo ripples across stillness in widening rings of color. When they reach the final shelf, Wanda blue crystal gives way to knee-deep shallows. Cool water wraps Elsa's ankles like silk spun from glacier streams. Warm undertow curls around Moana's calves, carrying distant sea salt scents. Opposite currents meet, swirl, then settle. Two temperatures negotiating peaceful coexistence at skin level. Elsa lifts a palm, gathering moisture from surrounding mist. She rolls her wrist. Droplets converge into an orb, then flatten, petal by petal, until a flawless ice-white lotus rests above her palm. Frost veining each petal catches dawnlight, scattering rays onto towering banyan trunks behind them. She lowers the bloom to the lagoon. Upon contact, the water hushes into lapis stillness. The lotus drifts outward, spinning slowly, leaving a trailing ribbon of diamond dust. Moana watches the lotus glide. Instinct tells her the lagoon craves a partner energy, warmth, motion, voice. She closes her eyes, hums a note her people reserve for star-guided night sails. The sound is low, breathy, created to flow with ocean wind. As the melody spills across the basin, tiny tide swirls appear, miniature spirals that dance around the ice lotus without disturbing it. They look like living fingerprints, pressed lightly upon the surface, each swirl glowing faint gold. Lotus and spirals converge, weaving an elegant pattern of frost and foam. Then the lagoon brightens, first white, then brilliant prism. A beam seems to rise from its heart, splitting open the very air above. Vision pours through. Moana and Elsa stand mesmerized as a living tapestry unspools across the water's skin. They see two worlds, Motunui and Arendelle, drawn in shimmering threads of blue and silver. At first, the worlds spin in balance, one crowned by tropical foliage, the other by snowy fjords. Then the weave loosens. Arendelle's frosts grow jagged, biting into mountain roots until avalanches roar unchecked. Motunui's sun blazes hotter, drying riverbeds into cracked bone. Fish vanish from coral, villages shiver beneath ice sheets. Between the two realms yawns a widening fissure, as if reality's fabric can no longer hold contradicting seasons. Visions accelerate. Storms tear migratory routes. Volcanic vents explode beneath glaciers. Coral bleaches ghost white. Northern lights flicker unstable red. Constellations stutter out of alignment. Finally, the tapestry frays entirely. Threads unravel into black unknown, swallowing both islands in a silence that rings louder than any roar. Color drains from the lagoon. It turns glass black, reflecting only the shock carved on the voyagers' faces. For a stretched second, neither woman breathes. Then the water sighs. Literally sighs, swelling gently as if apologizing for the severity it showed. Color returns in soft teal pulses. At the center, the ice lotus radiates a fragile glow. Tide swirls fade to pale moonlight rings. The vision has ended, leaving purpose behind like a tide-washed shell. Moana breaks the silence first. Her voice is barely above whisper, yet it sends ripples of warm amber across the pool. The worlds aren't just touching, they're tugging each other apart. Elsa lowers to one knee, fingertips skating the surface. Beneath her skin, magic shivers. Not fear, but urgency. We thought the heart pool would balance us, but it's only the beginning. The watercolors shift to dawn rose, acknowledgement. They sit on a limestone shelf just above lapping edge, where vines arch overhead like a natural cathedral. Discussion flows in measured murmur, their words weaving through the jungle hush. The imbalance started when Elsa's portal opened, when winter bled into summer without an anchoring counterpart. The island adapted quickly, but adaptation alone won't mend cosmic fabric. Something must continuously mediate both forces, a physical promise that seasons honor each other. They fall quiet, listening. Wind in vines seems to answer with fluttering syllables. Elsa opens her palm. Frost forms into lettering, spirals and snowflake arms intertwining. Moana presses her shell pendant against the frost. The shapes merge, becoming a hybrid spiral snow pattern exactly like the symbol from their shared dream. Breath of balance, Moana names it, voice blooming the water into a warm marigold hue. Elsa nods. A totem, tangible, carried by wind and tide, part sea, part ice. She closes her fist. The frost lace shatters silently, then reforms as a hollow sphere, delicate as glass, strong as glacier. Moana fishes into her satchel, retrieves a pink conch worn smooth by decades of surf. She twists it gently until interior reveals its mother-of-pearl heart shaped like a swirling vortex. With a small stone pick, she carves away the broken tip and sets it beside the ice sphere. The conch's spiral cavity mirrors the sphere's internal hollowness. Warm shell and cold crystal, two halves yearning to clasp. But they cannot simply fuse. They must breathe. They conceive a design. The conch shell will cradle a core of enchanted ice that never melts. Etched vents in shell whorls will allow the island breeze to pass through, cooling in one moment, warming in the next. Each breath across the core will carry microcrystals or sea salt ions, particles tiny enough to ride trade winds and ocean currents, seeding equilibrium clouds across both hemispheres. When winds blow north, they'll carry soft warmth to Arendelle. When currents flow south, they'll carry gentle cool to Motunui, a tide-powered inhalation, an ice-powered exhalation, perpetual sigh of peace between worlds. They map tasks. Elsa must condense ice so pure it anchors magical resonance, but remains light enough for wind to lift. It will require drawing memory of her calmest moments, soothing laughter with Anna, soft snow flurries over castle courtyards, lullabies from her mother. Moana must refine the shell, etching spirals aligned to star paths, ensuring trade winds enter at precise pitch to hum across the core. She will need help from village carvers and star navigators. The lagoon responds to each intention. When Elsa speaks of ice purity, water blushes silver. When Moana describes spiral vents, water deepens sapphire. A final soft pulse. Lavender confirms the plan pleases some silent guardian. Gaze sweeps skyward. Clouds gather, neither storm dark nor fair weather white, but an in-between violet that hints at transformation. The sun climbs, shining through leaf lattice, casting patterned diamonds on rippling surface. The lotus still floats, whole and glowing. Tide swirls rest around it like sentries. Before leaving, they kneel at lagoon's edge. Moana hums the starflight lullaby. Elsa releases a snowflake the size of a fingernail onto the lagoon. As melody drifts outward, water's color pulses along the music's scale, and the snowflake dissolves into shimmering motes. Lagoon edges flash emerald, gratitude. They back away in reverent silence, then turn up the limestone terraces. Behind them, Heartpool calms to mirror blue, but a new glint rests on its surface. A minuscule spiral of foam encircling an ice shard shaped like a seed. First breath of the balance already exhaled. As they head toward the village with shell and plane in tow, vines part without touch. Jungle birds trill harmonies of sun and snow, and somewhere in distant fjords, an aurora flickers steady. Soft greens smoothing jagged reds, as though the far north heard a promise whispered by dawn across half a world. Soft dawn spills over Motunui in hushed pink hues, lighting the village like a seashell turned toward sunrise. Mist curls above dual-season groves, while quiet embers wink beneath last night's cookfires. Moana and Elsa rise together before the first conch horn, slipping out beneath palms that wear crowns of dew and powdered frost. The lagoon's vision still echoes in their bones, urgent yet gentle. And today, the work begins. Gathering the gifts, they wade ankle-deep among tide pools where staghorn coral rises like miniature citadels. Moana's fingers move with respect, learned from countless reef repairs. She selects a single branch broken naturally by wave force, rosy white and porous. It glows faint in pre-dawn blue, as if remembering long summers. Nearby, Elsa kneels on sun-warmed sand and exhales a plume of crystalline breath. From that breath condenses a sliver of ice so clear it looks more like trapped moonlight than frozen water. She cups it carefully, her calmest magic, distilled into weightless frost. Next, they trek inland to an ancient tamanu tree whose trunk twists in graceful spirals. Elders call it heartwood because its grain rings mimic the swirl of island genealogy. Moana touches the bark, whispering lineage. Elsa places a palm above, letting coolness soothe the old tree's sun-baked skin. A single limb, already dead and dangling, snaps free with quiet dignity. They carry it home like honored cargo. Creation in slow rhythm. Beneath the communal shelter, pandanus mats are spread, and a semicircle of village carvers, weavers, and star navigators gather in respectful silence. The surf hums beyond, forming a metronome of breath that guides every motion. Sand smoothing. Moana glides the coral shard across flat sandstone, shaving edges until its natural spiral emerges, tiny chambers that once housed living polyps. The scrape, pause, brush away pattern repeats, steady as lullaby percussion. Shh, shh, tap, shh. Wood whittling. An elder named Kalo shapes heartwood with a bone adze, each stroke paired to the distant boom of waves on outer reef. Curls fall like cinnamon ribbons, releasing sweet resin that mingles with morning salt. Elsa leans close, cooling the freshly split grain so it does not crack, sealing it in a glaze of invisible frost that gleams only when sunlight bends just right. Ice spinning. Elsa sits cross-legged, palms upward. She recites her mother's winter lullaby in a barely audible hum. With each measured breath, she weaves filament-thin threads of frost, twisting them into a hollow sphere no larger than a bird's egg. Inside the sphere, countless micro-snowflakes drift in slow orbit, her calmest memories crystallized. Whenever her concentration wavers, the flakes bump and spark. So Moana places a steadying hand on Elsa's shoulder, grounding the chill with heartbeat warmth. Snowflakes settle. The sphere glows again. Shell carving. Moana lays the conch on a block of cushioned cloth and traces star paths along its natural spiral. Using a shark-tooth chisel, she punctures vents precisely where trade wind whistles best. Each notch releases a soft tone, tiny flutes singing ascending scales. The villagers pause their own tasks to listen. The sound drifts like sleep wind through coconut leaves. Hours pass in gentle cycles, scrape, hum, breath, chime, until midday's sun dots the shelter roof with lace shadows. By then, 3 elements lie ready. Coral spiral cleaned to pearly sheen, heartwood frame carved into a protective cage, ice sphere shimmering with silver serenity, and vented conch gleaming rose and cream. Assembling the totem. They lay components on a mat woven with the double season motif, hibiscus petals embroidered beside snowflakes. Elsa lowers the ice sphere into the conch's spiral cavity. A soft hiss, warm shell greeting cool core, then silence as temperatures find truce. Moana slides the coral shard into a groove along the shell's outer ridge. Its porous channels line up with carved vents, promising capillary airflow. At last, Kalo fits the carved heartwood ribs around shell and coral, lashing them with braided how fiber. Each knot tightened draws a sigh from surrounding villagers, as though everyone releases tension in unison. Moana and Elsa exchange a look, relief laced with apprehension. A faint tremor runs through the finished totem, almost like first breath of a newborn. The vents exhale a thread of mist that smells of brine and pine at once. It drifts upward, catching sunbeams, shimmering turquoise, then icy blue. Ocean children nearby gasp. Elders smile knowingly. Blessing beneath two skies. At sunset, the village gathers on the western bluff, where sea and sky paint a gradient from molten gold to nocturne indigo. Spiritual leaders arrive draped in leis of dual blossoms, frangipani and frosted jasmine that Elsa crafted by touching petals with a kiss of chill. Drums fall silent. Only heartbeat surf remains. Moana presents the totem, holding it eye level so everyone sees both warm shell glow and cold crystal flicker. She speaks of journeys, visions, and responsibility shared by every tideborn soul. Elsa follows, voice gentle as falling snow, promising that her gift will never force change, only invite harmony. The eldest priestess dips fingers into seawater gathered in a stone bowl, then traces a spiral across the coral shard. Droplets sizzle as they meet faint frost, then settle into gleaming pearls. She chants to Tefiti, to ocean guardians, to mountain winds. A second elder sprinkles powdered basalt, ashes of Motunui's volcanic past, over the heartwood frame, grounding the totem in island memory. Finally, a young acolyte tilts the bowl. Water cascades through the conch vents, exits as cool mist sparkling under twilight stars. The entire bluff glows for one suspended breath. Out beyond the reef, bioluminescent algae ignite in rippling ribbons. Dolphins breach, backs luminous, as if ocean spirits echo approval. Far overhead, a band of faint southern lights unfurls, a phenomenon never seen this close to the equator, painting the sky in teal and violet. Village voices hush in reverent awe, a thread of uncertainty. When the lights fade, only torch glow and moonwash remain. Moana and Elsa cradle the totem between them. It beats with alternating pulses, warm, cool, like two hearts learning the same rhythm. But the pulses wobble now and then, skipping beats whenever doubt flickers in either heroine's mind. They feel it simultaneously. The artifact's equilibrium is no stronger than their trust. Moana recalls earlier years when she doubted her own calling, how fear nearly stilled her voyaging spirit. Elsa remembers winters spent barricaded behind castle doors, convinced isolation was safety. They share quiet confession beneath a whispering palm. Neither is finished learning courage. The totem brightens at their honesty, but dims again when a rogue thought wonders what if? What if winds shift wrong? What if ice overpowers coral? What if warmth evaporates the core? They decide on a safeguard, nightly meditation by the heart pool, alternating songs and snowflake breathing until their pulses echo the lagoon's calm. The villagers pledge support. Carvers will inspect lashings, navigators will test airflow, children will sing double-season lullabies to keep magic playful. Community becomes net beneath balance beam, night's first breath. As the moon lifts fully, Moana stands knee-deep in surf, holding the totem toward western stars. Elsa kneels in sand, fingertips brushing foam. Together, they exhale. The conch inhales sea air, squeezes it through coral channels, past heartwood echo chambers, across unmelting frost core, then releases it skyward. The exiting breath shivers the palm fronds, rattles distant pandanus leaves, and sails beyond the reef toward endless horizon. It carries a scent that is salt on one inhale, snow on the next, ending in a freshness impossible to name, something like hope, crystallized. A hush blankets Motunui. Waves lap slower, as though listening. Somewhere on the northern wind, a fleet of winter geese changes course south by a single star width. Deep in the lagoon, bicolored algae pulse together for the first time. Balance has begun its long, measured exhalation. Yet on the sand, the totem flickers. Bright, dim, bright. Trust will need tending as any fire or frost. Moana curls her fingers over Elsa's, and they lift the artifact between them, acknowledging the fragility beneath its beauty. In that shared grip lies promise. Vigil side by side, song beside snow, until equilibrium is not a spell, but a story lived every dawn. Behind them, the village drifts toward sleep, lulled by rhythmic surf and the faint whistle of trade winds threading convents. Above, constellations blaze summer white, while a slim auroral ribbon glows winter green, cohabiting sky like harmonious strangers learning each other's names. The breath of balance rests, pulsing softly, half heartbeat, half tide rhythm, waiting for dawn and the first real test of its serene power. A hush of late morning breeze pushes lazy clouds across Motunui's split-season sky when an enormous hawk silhouette dips from the blue, circles twice, and plunges toward the beach in a corkscrew of cocky showmanship. Feathers ripple, sunlight flashes, and, mid-spin, wings fold into bronzed biceps, talons shift into sand-dusted feet, and there stands Maui, demigod of wind, sea, and swagger. Hair as wild as cliff grass, grin as wide as a new moon. He slings his famed fishhook across one shoulder, surveys frosted palm crowns and sun-baked tide pools, and lets out a booming laugh that sends seabirds scattering. Well, what do we have here? Half coconut, half snow cone, he booms, stamping sand from his ankles. Somebody's been redecorating without Maui's expert advice. Moana, carrying woven herbs back from the heart pool, arches an eyebrow in amused tolerance. Elsa stands nearby, adjusting lashing knots on the conch totem, frost glowing faintly at her fingertips. She tilts her head, studies this stranger who announces himself with the confidence of thunder. Maui's eyes flick to the totem's soft shimmer. His grin widens. "Cool trinket, literally," he says, leaning in. "And let me guess, Ice Princess over here opened a portal bigger than her snow castle and everything went whoosh." He mimes at the vortex, swirling arms like a child stirring stew. Elsa offers a polite, measured nod. "It's complicated." "Complicated is Maui's middle name," he declares, tapping his tattoos, each one shifting into tiny hula gestures of approval. "Gift-fixing portals, returning hearts of goddesses. My resume's solid. Let me take a peek." Before Moana can warn him, Maui plucks the totem from Elsa's gentle hold and flips it in his palm like a coconut ball. The conch vents whistle a surprised note. Frost shimmer flickers. Coral spirals pulse hot, cold, hot, cold. A thin crack creeps along one wooden rib, hairline but growing. "Maui!" Moana scolds, hands flying out. She snatches the artifact back, nestling it into padded cloth. Elsa exhales a breath so calm it forms a snow puff instead of a storm. Still, the tiny fault line glints along heartwood, a reminder that strength without care is merely force. Maui squints, shoulders drooping half an inch. "Okay, maybe a little delicate." He strokes his chin. "But I can reinforce it. Quick hammer tap here, fishhook zip there, good as new." Moana exchanges a silent glance with Elsa. Patience. They invite Maui to the heart pool clearing, seat him on a lava rock bench smoothed by dual seasons, and explain, slowly, how the breath of balance hinges on subtleties of airflow, temperature, and trust. They show him the crack, the way it threatens to misalign coral chambers. Elsa conjures a snow silk thread thinner than spider web. Moana steadies the totem while she lays the glimmering strand across the fracture, sealing it under cool breath. The heartwood drinks frost, grain tightening until the line vanishes. Maui watches, brow pinched in thought, not used to seeing finesse solve what force nearly broke. His hook tattoos mimic the motion in miniature, one carving, one freezing. The demigod's lips curl into something quieter than grin. recognition. He clears his throat, holds up both massive palms, and humbly asks to add one finishing touch. Elsa hesitates, then nods. Maui dips the tip of his fishhook into a shallow basin of lagoon water, whispers a chant older than volcano bone, and presses its edge against the concha's rim. A pristine imprint, smaller than a fingernail, flares gold, then settles into the shell. A stylized hook nested within a spiral snowflake, the demigod's blessing for luck and safe passage. No crack appears, no whistle warbles. Balance holds. Moana exhales in relief, soft laughter catching in her throat. Elsa traces the glowing mark, feeling warmth and respect rather than reckless heat. "Thank you," she says, voice ringing with sincerity. Maui shrugs, trying and failing to hide pride. "Teamwork, am I right?" He plops onto the sand with enough force to jostle nearby driftwood into a miniature landslip. "So, what's next in this cold and hot collab?" Twilight on two flames, evening gathers like slow ink. The group sets camp beneath a breadfruit tree whose trunk is half furred in frost feathers, half glowing with ember sap. Maui chops drift logs. Moana arranges stones. Elsa breathes a gentle flurry over kindling. When Moana strikes a spark, fire leaps up in citrus-orange tongues. Elsa adds a whisper of ice. Blue-white sparks skate the flame's edges, cooling embers just enough that heat radiates steady but never scorches. The resulting campfire lives as two colors: warm heart, cool halo, pulsing in perfect alternation, crackling lullabies of steam sizzle and wood pop. They circle close, dinner of taro leaf packets warming at the edge of flame. Maui launches into story mode, tattoos illuminating into animated vignettes that dance across his skin. The time he slowed the sun, the trick that lassoed an eel, the mid-ocean wrestling match with a storm spirit. Each boastful tale ends with a wink toward Elsa. See, magic's more fun with flair. Not to be outdone, Moana counters with voyages beyond the reef, monster realm chases, and the moment Teika surrendered her fury back into Te Fiti's glowing heart. Elsa softens the rhythm, sharing quieter memories. Laughter echoing in castle halls, first snowfall in Arendel's summer courtyard, the hush of northern lights reflecting in a still fjord. Maui listens, chin on fist, as though tasting flavors he never noticed existed, subtler notes in the dish of legend. At intervals, Elsa flicks powdered snow above the fire. Crystals catch sparks, creating fleeting comets that streak skyward before dissolving into stardust. Maui tries, accidentally dumps a fistful and nearly douses the flame. Laughter roars, echoing across shadowy palms. He learns restraint. Smaller pinch, slower toss. This time, the snow merges with flame in dazzling helix. Even the demigod can value gentleness. The totem rests on a nearby log, glowing softly. Every swirl of storytelling breath passes through camp, grazes conch vents, exits in micro-hushes of balanced air that join the sea breeze flowing toward midnight horizon. No wobble, no flicker. The artifact steadies in communal trust, buoyed by shared laughter and patient correction. Night's closing hum. When tales dwindle to yawns, Moana sings her lullaby. Elsa harmonizes with a high, snow-soft descant. Maui thumps a gentle drum on his chest, heartbeat echo rattling distant crickets into silence. Above, constellations ripple in twin palettes, summer gold, winter green. The two flames merge into a single low glow, warm enough to comfort, cool enough to calm. Before sleep claims them, Maui tips his hook in salute to both women. "Portal craziness? We got this," he murmurs, settling onto sand. Not every day a demigod learns something new. Moana smiles in the half-light. Elsa rests palms near embers, frost sparks mingling with dying coals, evidence that extremes can meet, dance, and rest without destroying each other. Somewhere offshore, waves slap rock in lazy applause. The totem pulses once, sure, steady, grateful, and the camp drifts into dream, cradled by a lullaby woven of tide hush, snow hush, and a demigod's finally humbled grin. Night unfurls across Motunui like a vast satin sail, deep indigo soaked with island musk and briny wind. The village sleeps under calm, two-season stars, while Moana, Elsa, and Maui ready their outrigger at the moonlit shore. The craft is narrow but sure-footed, hulls scrubbed clean, lashings triple-checked, deck blessed with braids of seaweed and frost-petaled hibiscus. The breath of balance rests at the bow, swaddled in tapa cloth and glowing in tide-sized heartbeats. Warm pulse, cool pulse, warm again. Moana kneels and unfolds a tapa map of constellations, linework stitched by her ancestors when stories still traveled only by voice and wave. Each star is painted in crushed seashell white. Between them, Isla green paths spiral like nautilus grooves, marking routes that the ocean whispers only to wayfinders who fall deeply silent. Tonight, those routes point toward a blank space, an uncharted region beyond outer reefs where no fishing nets drop and no storms dare to linger. Elders call it the still tongue of the sea, a hush where currents forget their names. Elsa steps to Moana's side. Frost bleeds across the wooden deck beneath her heels, yet stops short of rope knots, magic already trained to respect seam lines. She scans the star map, lips moving as she matches tropical constellations to the northern patterns that once guided Arundelian sailors. Familiar shapes emerge: the swan, the ice crown, the fishhook. She connects them mentally to Motunui's shark tooth, coconut spine, and navigator's drum. Lines overlap, overlay, fuse, two sky languages suddenly speaking the same sentence. Her breath catches. The totem flashes silver rose. Maui hefts his fishhook and flicks one eyebrow. If we're sailing to some cosmic doorway, we'll need more than cute dots and cold breezes. Got room for demigod flair? He smirks, but his tone drizzles with genuine concern. Moana grins back. Elsa's polite nod tells him his power is welcomed, within boundaries. He puffs up, chants a quick wind-beckoning song, and palms curl warm gusts into the sail, just enough to set fabric trembling. They shove off. Sand grinds under keel, then gives way to whispering foam. The outrigger glides forward, surf hissing away behind like curtains parting. Paddle dips sink into mirrored starlight. Each stroke leaves a channel of shimmering phosphorescence that spirals outward before fading. The lagoon's dual currents, warm and cool, braid perfectly under hull, propelling them beyond reef teeth and into deep water hush. Hours pass to the rhythm of heartbeats. Maui hums stories to himself, voice rumbling low. Elsa stands at prow, face pearl-lit, snow spark motes spinning gently round her braid like minnows in a clear stream. Moana studies the sky, turning the star map in her head, aligning pulses of conch song from the totem with the hush of wave troughs. When two pulses match, one warm, one cool, she tilts the rudder a hand breadth, adjusting course by instinct honed on childhood currents. Gradually, the sea changes. Swells flatten into pain-smooth glaze, reflecting sky so perfectly the boat seems to float between twin heavens. Horizon dissolves. Up and down, trade places in silent negotiation. A faint breeze sighs across water's skin, scattering prism dust. Tiny mirrored shards drifting like pollen. Each shard winks aurora hues. Mint, lavender, lunar gold. And bursts when touched by paddle drip, pop flash of pastel light that fades with a tinkle unheard. Elsa closes her eyes, a stirring at the base of her spine, soft tug westward, a mother calling supper. Arendelle's fjords, palace spires, harbor bells ring in her memory. The sensation thickens, a gentle but constant pull, more emotional than physical, yet undeniable. The totem's frost half glows stronger, Vents exhale cooler sighs. She places a hand on the shell, whispering calm. Warm pulses keep time, but she feels the equilibrium leaning north, craving home. On the stern, Moana senses anchor lines tightening in her chest, as if island roots have grown up through the boat planks to curl around her ribs. Her shoreline, her people, her coconut groves hum inside her bones. Every foot the boat slides farther away, the hum grows louder, insisting return. The totem's coral spiral heats, exhaling salt-sweet warmth that tries to sway direction south. Balance falters. Warm and cool pulses out of sync. Maui notices. Tattoos on his arm flick images of tug-of-war. One little snowflake, one little shell. He clears his throat. Ladies, doorway ahead. Maybe. He gestures. At first, Moana and Elsa see only star reflections. Then a ripple flashes. Tiered rings, like oil on water, but luminous lavender. Rings widen, closing then opening again in lazy breath. At their center, nothing shows. No blackness or glow, just a wavering transparency that distorts horizon into a funhouse curve. Light pulses along its rim in colors of frozen dawn. The water directly beneath rotates slower than a whirlpool, more like a cosmic lens adjusting focus. Moana and Elsa share silent agreement. This is the convergence rift. They ease paddling, hull coasts until the bow tip kisses outermost ring. The outrigger shudders, but not with fear. More, a thunderous hush. Waves hush. Breeze hush. Even Maui hushes. Aurora bands ripple upward from the ring, combing sky with soft ribbons that crackle only faintly, like ice fracturing on distant lakes. The totem brightens, thrumming as though ready to sing. Warm and cool pulses fight for timing. Elsa's tug south intensifies. Moana's island pull strains. Maui grips mast, jaw set. Let it breathe, he murmurs. Moana unwraps the tapa cloth. The totem rests in her palms for a heartbeat. Shell warm, ice core cool, coral ridge neutral as bone. She and Elsa lean over the mirrored sea. Water parts around hull but not from wind. Invisible currents swirl, forming a cradle. Moana sets the artifact onto the surface. The conch does not sink, nor fully float. It hovers, half submerged, half raised, held by unseen strings linking sea and sky. Immediately the ringed veil brightens. Colors race up invisible columns, etching a translucent archway stretching skyward, large enough for a canoe yet delicate as bubble film. The totem spins, slow and deliberate, vent holes breathing in from Motunui's current and exhaling toward Arendelle's breeze on the unseen side. Each breath sculpts the arch, stabilizing its shimmer. Elsa feels the tug transform into gentle invitation, no longer forceful but open-armed, as if Arendelle offers welcome rather than demand. Moana's anchor sensation loosens into a comforting tether, like one of Tala's story shells strung to her wrist. She can journey but remains connected. Warm and cool pulses sink again, steadying the arch's glow. Yet equilibrium remains fragile. Miniature fractures flicker along arch edges whenever their hearts skip rhythm. When Elsa's memory flashes icy corridors, when Moana recalls her father tending nets. They breathe slow, practicing snowflake meditation and lullaby hum in tandem. Pulse steadies, cracks shrink. Maui steps lightly along outrigger beam. In one hand, he holds a palm-woven cage containing glistening sea glass shards from both beach frost and sun-tempered tidal pools, a last-minute good luck charm crafted by village children. He hooks the cage on the mast, letting it swing above waterline, chiming where trade wind threads through. Subtle new resonance spreads across surface. Arch stabilizes further, edges smoothing into seamless shimmer. Even so, the path is narrow. Beyond arch glimmers two vistas layered like reflections. One shows Arendel's calm fjord bathed in crescent moon and pale green aurora. The other shows Motunui's heart pool lagoon, fronds frost-edged and sun-kissed. They overlap in ghost transparency, then separate, weaving and unweaving like breathing images on rippled silk. Elsa rests a hand atop Moana's on the gunwale. "If I step through," she whispers, "the doorway might seal behind me." Warm breath lifts frost from her words. It dances away like fireflies. Moana's gaze anchors on the heart pool image, home, family, laughter, and on Elsa's hopeful eyes. "Balance needs both shores," she answers. "Maybe the doorway isn't exit. Maybe it's a bridge. We walk half, meet at the middle, and the worlds learn to share us." Maui leans on the mast, grin subdued. "You two think too small. I say we test a toe first." He thrusts one bare foot towards shimmering water. The arch flares, but holds. His tattoo mini fishhook applauds. They all chuckle, nerves dissipating in shared humor. Laugh heat and frost spark swirl upward, adding streaks of gold and blue to the arch. For a beat, stillness reigns, the boat bobbing barely, the sea beneath holding breath, sky overhead swirling aurora quiet. The totem spins once more, exhaling a harmonized sigh across the threshold. One note pitched between lullaby and winter hush. The veil steadies, transparent yet strong, waiting. Behind them, east horizon pales, the first hint of dawn. Ahead, arch glows with protect promise, a fragile gate ready for carefully placed destinies. They grip paddles, breath synced, hearts aligned, and prepare to glide into the seam where worlds shake hands rather than pull apart. The outrigger drifts past the shimmering arch, and time seems to unlace. Water no longer feels like water. It yields beneath the hull, as if they are sliding across softly breathing glass. Above, twin skies fold into one another, Arendel's pale auroras curling like parchment into Motunui's deep blue night. Even Maui's broad shoulders tense, tattoos flattening as though quieted by a far older magic. Then the rift begins its test. A hush breaks, first subtle, then vast, as if someone inhales the very concept of silence and exhales unrest. Waves thicken into oily swells that rear like dark mirrors. Crests flash violet then vanish before crashing. Starlight fractures into prismatic shards, spinning dizzy halos around each traveler's head. From nowhere, a chorus of voices murmur, a weave of tones pitched exactly to the secret frequencies of self-doubt. Moana hears her father's voice, warped and distant. "Why sail here? Your island needs its chief at home." Another thread sounds like Tala's laughter breaking into coughs. "Not every horizon hides a lesson, little fish." Then softer, "What if balance fails and the ocean swallows both worlds?" Elsa's doubts slither up from memories. Arendel's gate slamming, citizens gasping at ice spirals gone wild, Anna's frozen form cradled in fear. "You are danger masked as blessing," the whispers hiss. "Your magic stings every shore you touch." She feels frost on her pulse, the old panicked promise of isolation. Maui, too, is not spared. The rift throws thundercloud illusions across his legend, a sun that slips free of his hook, crashing into the sea, a miniature Maui tattoo turning its back in disappointment. Pride wavers. Wind rises, yet the sail hangs limp, caught between two contradictory breezes. Swells twist the canoe sideways until wood groans. Paddles clatter uselessly along the deck. Through the arch behind them, Motunui blurs in watery distance. Ahead, Arendel's fjord flickers like a film reel losing frames. Their intermediate sea becomes a silver void rippling with doubt. Moana breathes once, twice, draws ocean air into belly and mind, and begins an ancestral chant older than compass and star chart. The syllables roll like drumbeats of surf on cliff. a promise that water remembers kindness, that stone remembers patience. She plants her feet wide, spreads her arms, and lets the chant seep through hull and outrigger arms. The canoe's timbers respond, vibrating with a subtle thrum. Phosphorescent lines bloom along every plank, ancient glyphs of voyagers who once trusted waves more than land. Each glowing swirl locks the craft's pieces together, steadying the keel, tempering tilt. Elsa, eyes closed, lifts both hands. She recalls the calmest hush of falling snow outside her childhood window, the muffled peace of a midnight landscape blanketed white. From those memories, she spins a sphere of pale frost around the boat, feather thin, yet diamond tough. It rotates slowly, humming at the exact frequency of Moana's chant. Where wind slashes, it meets a yielding cushion. Where rogue wave rams, it slides harmlessly aside in steam-kissed plumes. Within the halo, air balances, a blend of bracing cool and nurturing warmth. Tattoos shimmer on Maui's arms again, spirits returning. But the rift is not satisfied. Illusion deepens. Black clouds bloom overhead, dripping violet rain that evaporates before touching deck, yet leaves salted sadness in its scent. Whispers braid tighter, conjuring faces of villagers shivering under unseasonal blizzards, children staring at parched nets, Arendelian courtiers shuffling through frozen marketplaces, Motunui elders coughing under equatorial snow. The voices offer bargain. Return now. Keep your own world safe. Abandon the reckless merge. Maui clenches the mast, fishhook tip carving sparks along deck. Pretty loud for a patch of seawater, he growls, though wariness ghosts behind bravado. Hold fast, Moana answers, raising her chant a note. Her words, once a steady drum, layer into polyrhythms, the hush of reef at dusk, the rumble of tidal caverns, the laughter of children leaping waves. She weaves hope into every beat, until the canoe pulses like a living artery of courage. Elsa senses a resonance line forming, warm vibration meeting cool lattice. She shapes the snow sphere inward, condensing swirling frost into runes that match Moana's chant symbols. Each rune glows aquamarine, then melts into mist that anoints the wood rather than chilling it. Inner and outer magic lock. The vessel becomes a pivot between elements, refusing either extreme. But the final trial remains: surrender. The rift's center brightens, beckoning like a star seen from the bottom of a well. To open the doorway properly, neither steering nor shielding can rule. They must release intentional control and trust synergy alone. The canoe must float on balanced will, not force. Moana's hands still on the gunwale. Elsa's palms halt mid-weave. Maui braces feet, trusting weight not power. All three inhale together. One breath braided of tropical salt, winter crystal, and demigod thunder. They exhale as one and let go. The chant falls silent. Frost sphere dissipates into glittering snow motes that neither melt nor freeze, merely suspend. Paddles drift loose, bumping hull in soft knocks. For 3 heartbeats, the canoe lists unanchored, then rights itself, gliding forward on a current no one can see. Whispers fade, replaced by distant hush of lullaby snow and lullaby surf intertwining. Storm clouds peel back like silver curtains, revealing a vaulted corridor of dancing light. Curtains of emerald, rose, icy blue, aurora ribbons unfurling straight across the sea at eye level. Water beneath re-solidifies into smooth plate, yet a narrow strip shimmers brighter. A winding path of ice gleaming opal under starlight, hovering inches above liquid surface. It curves away east-north, serpentine and patient. The breath of balance spins at the bow, conch vents exhaling soft chords that harmonize with the auroras. Warm coral glow and cool ice spark pulse perfectly in time. The artifact has judged intention, accepted surrender, and answered with passage. Elsa steps first onto the luminous ice. It holds her weight like marble but flexes with pulse like living frost. The tug toward Arendelle turns gentle invitation. Fear loosens. She looks back. Moana stands at deck's edge, one hand over heart. Her island tether thrums steady, not desperate, like a shell whispering reminder of home rather than accusation of betrayal. She lifts her free hand to Elsa, and they share a silent vow. Distance will be measured only in trust, never in loss. Maui leans against mast, watching auroras play across his fishhook engraving on the conch. Not bad, he mutters with grin's return. Path looks slippery, though. Need a demigod guide? He winks but stays on boat, understanding his part lies with Moana, keeping Motunui safe while cold and warm winds find new routes. Elsa turns to the ice stream. Each step leaves blue footprints that fade into silver, marking memory without scar. The path climbs a gentle loop over low clouds, then descends toward a horizon where unseen cliffs of Arendelle wait. She knows journey will not be instant. There will be pauses where ice thins, places to breathe into northern wind again. But balance follows with every breath from the totem at her back. Moana feels the canoe pivot gently south, guided by trade wind and coral current. The rift dims but does not close. Instead, it narrows into a shimmering thread connecting ice stream and outrigger like spider silk across dawn. In that filament sings the conch's even rhythm. Inhale of snow, exhale of tide. The illusions disperse. Real stars take dominion. Clouds retreat to edges of horizon. Sea resumes its hush heartbeat, unbroken but new. Deep chords sounding from both warm undertow and mellow chill. The trial is past. Moana raises her paddle in salute. Elsa lifts a palm, weaving a small aurora ribbon that ties itself to Moana's braid like an electric feather. They share a final smile, neither goodbye nor farewell, but a promise to meet in every breath of balanced wind. The canoe glides south toward first glimmer of sunrise over Motunui. The ice path wends northeast beneath waning moonlight, and between them, a delicate rift thread hums steady, holding two worlds. Not in tension now, but in gently braided trust. Night lingers just long enough for every star to show its quiet face. Above the rift, aurora ribbons have thinned to silvery brushstrokes, while low clouds wait in reverent hush, unwilling to interrupt the last moments between voyager, queen, and demigod. Moana steadies the outrigger beside the luminous ice stream. The breath of balance glows softly in its cloth cradle, pulsing a serene rhythm. One warm beat for the island she carries in her chest. One cool beat for the northern valley calling Elsa home. The pace never falters. Proof that equilibrium has settled into something more permanent than spellwork. Elsa stands at the gunwale, cloak shimmering with drifting frost that dissolves before it can chill the deck. Her expression is calm, yet her eyes roam the boat. Its carved prow, the lashings she helped frost seal, Maui's fishhook imprint glowing faint gold on the conch, memorizing each detail as if weaving a tapestry of memory to unroll later in quiet Arendellian nights. Words struggle for place in the hush. Moana finally speaks, voice a warm tide. Dreams travel faster than canoes or ice streams. If you need us, breathe once before sleep. The ocean will carry it to me. Elsa's smile is a pale sunrise. And if you ever feel northern snow on your island wind, you'll know I'm answering. They clasp forearms, warm brown to cool ivory. Between their palms, a swirl of mist forms, half steam, half snow dust, then lifts skyward like a tiny spirit acknowledging vows. It bursts into a spray of diamond sparks that drift down as harmless dew. Maui, leaning casually on his hook, but blinking moisture from eyes he swears are allergic to starlight, clears his throat. Can't let the ice walker leave without a parting gift from the greatest demi-craftsman alive. He produces what looks like a folded fan carved from translucent ice feathers. each quill etched with miniature wave crests. "A breeze-powered sail," he explains, flicking it open. The feathers lock into a wide span that catches the faintest gust and hums with subtle magic. Tilt it, and any wind, north, south, even shy breezes, will guide your path. And if you smile at it, maybe it'll sing. He winks. Elsa accepts the gift, fingertips glazing the feathers with a protective sheen that keeps them from melting outside the veil. "Thank you, Maui," she whispers. "I thought I'd learned restraint, but perhaps I'm still only halfway there." The demigod pats his chest. Halfway's plenty. The rest's called adventure. The moment asks for no more speeches. Above, the first shooting star streaks low, white core, lavender tail, then another and another, until the sky fills with silent rain of light, as though the heavens themselves sign farewell in falling ink. Moana sets one knee to deck, touches her forehead to the conch shell. Warm lightning flares through coral spirals and flickers up the rift corridor. Water beneath the boat exudes a gentle heat that curls around Elsa's ankles like a promise of homecoming. Elsa steps onto the ice stream. It dips a fraction, then rises to meet her weight with eager buoyancy. She plants Maui's sail at her side. A faint wind, born of balanced breaths and whispered good luck, flutters the crystal feathers. The sail catches, billows, and the ice beneath transforms, growing forward into a narrow prow that points toward the horizon where auroras still whisper their pale song. She turns once more. Moana lifts 2 fingers in navigator salute. Maui crosses his hook over his heart. Elsa spreads her hand, releasing 3 snowflakes larger than any seen before. One drifts to Moana, landing intact on her palm, its pattern a perfect spiral of 6 petals swirling into a seashell curl. Another settles on Maui's shoulder, instantly tattooed into his skin by his own magic. The third rises skyward, promising to return here when the worlds next share a story. A hush draws tight as a tide-tuned line. Elsa tilts the sail slightly. The ice stream responds, gliding upward so gradually it seems the night lowers away beneath her, rather than she rising. Her cloak flutters behind like a banner stitched from moonlit waves and winter gusts. The totem's hum grows faint, but steady. From the outrigger deck, it looks as though she is skating on a glowing ribbon woven directly into the sky. Frost constellations brighten in her wake, tiny star shapes that blossom, then fade, tracing a ghost map across the firmament. They mirror Motunui's navigator patterns and Arendel's winter signs, twinning into a language only balance can speak. Moana feels no heaviness in her chest now, only a fresh breeze that tastes of pine and sea salt together. The island's tug has softened into an embrace that welcomes journey as part of belonging. Minutes, or maybe heartbeats, pass, and Elsa becomes a silhouette framed by falling stars. One last flash of crystal feathers, and she slips beyond the horizon line, leaving only a shimmering afterimage like breath lingering on cold glass. The rift narrows of its own accord. Auroras draw inward, spiraling around the corridor until it resembles a thread of silver stitched into midnight cloth. The thread pulses once, then goes transparent, not gone, merely invisible, waiting for dreams to find it. Moana exhales. The air wrapped around her chest loosens, and warmth glides over her skin, tempered by a pleasant cool. She glances toward distant Motunui cliffs. Even from out here, she can feel the island's temperature shifting. Morning breezes fresh but not biting, frond edges sparkling with dew instead of frost. Somewhere inland, the heart pool hums, an alto note layered with a tenor sigh, equal halves of season singing an octave. Maui lowers into the steersman's seat and gives a soft whistle of appreciation. Well, that happened. And nobody blew up. He pats the gunwale affectionately. The wood purrs under his palm. Yes, purrs. Glow lines fading into tranquil brown. Let's head home, Chief. Island's waiting. Moana nods, but keeps her gaze skyward one more breath. A final star drops, a glittering grain of ice dust that dissolves before touching water. She whispers thanks to Te Fiti, to the northern ancestral spirits, to every tide and flake that chose trust over fear. When she grasps her paddle, warm wood greets her skin with gentle cool at the edges. Breeze-kissed, balanced. She sets stroke. Maui catches the rhythm. Outrigger turns south on calm swells lit by teal dawn. Behind, sea surface smooths like an exhaled sigh, and the faint fragrance of pine mixes with frangipani. By sunrise, Motunui's shoreline gleams in perfect equilibrium. Palms rustle under soft trade wind. Breadfruit hang heavy yet frosted on one side like sugared delights. Children will wake to barefoot sand that is cool but never cold, air that refreshes but never stings. Somewhere north, a fjord will sparkle beneath first light, warmed by a mild breeze smelling faintly of hibiscus. Moana smiles, dipping her paddle once more. Balance is no longer a fragile truce. It is an ongoing conversation, breath in, breath out, between two worlds forever connected by trust, falling stars, and a promise to meet again in sweetest dreams. Night is a velvet hush after celebration, soft enough to fold your thoughts like sailcloth and tuck them safely under moonlight. Motunui dozes behind her, fires muted to embers, songs tucked away in reed flutes, palm leaves dreaming their slow, salt-sweet lullaby. But Moana cannot sleep yet. Her chest is too full of images that refuse to close. Elsa's cloak rising into a sky stitched with falling stars, the breath of balance beating like a bicolored heart. Maui's grin softening into honest awe. All of it floats inside her like flotsam after a passing storm. Bright pieces of meaning that need gentle gathering. So she pushes a small canoe, narrow as a whisper, down the slope of cooled sand. No one stirs. Even the surf hushes its applause, sensing the quiet ritual. She slides the hull over froth that glows faint turquoise, steps aboard, and sets paddle to water as if dipping a pen into ink. The lagoon opens in silence, trading land's warmth for the hush of open night. With every stroke, torches shrink to ember eyes. Soon, village huts dissolve into shadow lace stitched along the tree line, and only starlight guides her prow. Moon balances on the rim of the world, neither silver nor gold, but a pale blend, like warm milk stirred with frost crystals. It paints the sea in a single pearlescent arrow pointing toward promise. An arrow Moana follows without rush. Each pull of the paddle is unhurried, deliberate, timed to the deep breaths she lets fall into her belly. She is alone, but not lonely. The ocean is old company, and tonight it is as patient as an elder telling stories by a quiet hearth. She glances over her shoulder once, half expecting to glimpse the faint shimmer of the rift, but the gateway is invisible now, closed to eyes that cling too tightly. What remains is subtler, a crisp freshness in the wind, even as it carries the spice of hibiscus, a hush of cool at her fingertips, even while water feels warm. Two weathers singing the same lullaby, balance made invisible and, therefore, enduring. Mid-lagoon, she lifts her paddle and lets the canoe coast. Hull slides so softly she can count her heartbeat echoing in the plank grain. 1, 2, 3, before another delicate whisper interrupts. Something flutters across the bow, weightless, pale, six-pointed. A snow petal. It lands upon the deck and lingers without melting, glinting under moonsheen. Then another drifts down, and another, no larger than fingernail moons, each one sculpted as precisely as a coral polyp, yet softer than fog. They do not chill the air. They simply glow, as if remembering starlight too well to turn to water. Moana cups one on her palm. It twirls, slower than breath, then settles and fades into a mist that smells faintly of pine and candle wax. Arendelle fragrances born 1,000 leagues on balanced wind. A gift, she knows. Elsa's breeze-powered sail must have caught an updraft above some midnight current, freeing these tiny messengers to drift back toward Motunui. They are proof of safe journey, of trust traveling faster than footprints. She sets paddle across her knees, closes her eyes, lets a few snow petals gather in her lap like letters spelled in silence. They trigger memories. Her first voyage past the reef, when fear felt like a storm in her gut. Tala's hand guiding hers along, your true north. She remembers Elsa's trembling calm the first night frost kissed breadfruit leaves, the totem cracking under Maui's careless toss, then healing under their combined whispers. She tastes each moment like beads on a necklace, recognizing how every difference, warmth, chill, laughter, restraint, threaded into one circle that fits perfectly around the night. Breathing deeply, she begins to speak. Not aloud, but in the language of thought the ocean overhears. She vows to weave this story into every lesson for future voyagers, that navigation is not simply finding stars, but finding room inside your chest for opposite winds. She will tell them that frost can cool searing grief, and that warmth can thaw locked doors, and when both swirl at measured pace, they form a gentle tide no reef can resist. And she will add a smaller, sacred detail. Surrender is the hardest paddle stroke, but the one that carries you furthest. In reply, water strokes the hull with a pulse softer than pulse. Phosphorescent trails bloom behind the stern, swirling into glimmer shapes, half spiral, half snowflake, before dissolving back into ink ocean. Even stars seem to rearrange, clustering into unfamiliar constellations she suddenly understands. One looks like Maui's hook nestled against Elsa's snow lotus. Another resembles the heart pool's swirl. The sky is rewriting its chart so voyagers of both hemispheres can read the same stories. A yawn edges her lips. The canoe still floats, but the lagoon has slowed to a cradle rock. A sure sign the ocean wants her thoughts to settle, like sand after surf play. She drapes the paddle across gunwale and lies back, letting her head rest on bundled rope. Above, the new constellations wink, steady, rhythmic, coaxing eyelids heavy. Snow petals linger on the rim of the bow, unmelted, unworried, content to ride till dawn. She half dreams of children decades from now, launching bright canoes under a sky where auroras sometimes mingle with southern fireflies. Of elders telling legends in which Te Fiti's island heart beats in harmony with the northern lights. Of traders whispering that sea salt gathered in Motunui cures winter coughs, while pine resin shipped south cools fevers in tropical nights. She sees Elsa laughing among palm shadows, Maui teaching northern kids how to tattoo miniature stories onto drift ice, herself drawing maps with lines that curve out and then back, never severing. A meteor flares, from north to south, a reversed spear of light, then fades into velvet dark. Its passing erases the last tension in her spine. She breathes once more, each exhale matching the canoe's gentle bob. The lagoon's hush seeps higher. Seagrass perfume sweetens. Snow petals dissolve finally into tiny dew pearls that perfume the planks with faint frost mint. A final thought drifts across her mind like a lone outrigger cresting quiet swell. Balance happens in small, unloud breaths. Teach that, and the ocean will do the rest. She smiles, a soft half curve, and lets her eyes close fully. Stars overhead align into a broad, slow spiral, turning very, very gradually, all but imperceptible, unless you are the kind of dreamer who pays attention. They spin toward their own steady lullaby, setting a tempo perfect for sleep. And the lagoon, obeying the grand metronome of sky, rocks Moana deeper, deeper, until paddle handle rises and falls with the slow tide of her breathing. You, listener, may feel that tide too. Long inhale of warm salt, gentle exhale of crystalline hush. Let it cradle your chest. Snow petals and hibiscus fragrance mingle on the air, blending forest and fjord, sunrise and ice dawn, unity drawn in one soft line across your heart. Behind eyelids, stars drift into a single glowing point. Ahead, dawn waits beyond horizon but shows no hurry. Night's canvas remains for as long as you need it, a tranquil chart easy to follow into whatever dream harbors call your name. Sleep now, voyager, the canoe will not stray. The ocean keeps its quiet promises, and balance hums all around. Warm, cool, ebb flow, heartbeat wave, guiding you safely farther than any paddle could carry, straight into the hush where stories breathe. Hush now, traveler. Feel the faintest mist of sea spray on your cheek. Warm, salted, whisper soft, arriving from somewhere beyond reef and moon. Now imagine an answering kiss of snow, cool and clean, drifting down as a single crystal that settles on that same cheek and melts into the spray as if they were always meant to touch. This is the lullaby that lingers when two worlds finish talking, an exhale where tide and frost share one hush. Let it settle around you like a light blanket of twilight. Listen, the waves still stir, but only in slow breath. Each crest rises, holds, and sighs back into the dark, matching the easy cadence of your own chest. Between those sighs, tiny starflakes fall, silent motes from Elsa's path in the sky, twirling so lazily that time forgets to move. That is how peace speaks. Not in thunder, but in pauses wide enough to rest inside. Draw a slow breath. In, through the nose. Taste coconut trunks and pine needles mingling. Out, through the mouth. Watch a cloud of frosty dew drift away. Let memories slide into view the way lanterns float on calm water. First, see Motunui's dawn when frost bloomed over hibiscus leaves, nature's gentle question mark hanging in tropical air. Next, see a lone ice raft out at sea, carrying a snowborn queen toward an island sun that had never touched her skin. Remember their first cautious greeting, Moana's warmth, Elsa's chill, a shimmer of steam swirling between palms joined in trust. Hold that picture until it dissolves into ripple rings. Another lantern drifts closer. Inside glows the image of breadfruit trees crowned in frost flowers, villagers half fearful, half wide-eyed, and a queen spinning snowbirds to prove her heart gentle. Hear the laughter of children chasing diamond flakes that turn to dew before they could land. Let that laughter echo softly in the dark room around you, fading only when it becomes memory's lull. Set the next lantern adrift downstream. Its light reveals the sacred heart pool, water changing color with every breath of emotion, turquoise, coral, amethyst, until ice lotus and tide swirls met at its center. See the shared vision shimmering across the surface, two worlds slipping apart, then waiting in hush for heroes to braid them together again. Feel the hush grow wider, like a waiting cradle, as you watch that scene float past. Another lantern, the breath of balance forming beneath steady hands. Coral, conch, heartwood, and a sphere of purest frost, assembled to the steady metronome of surf outside, blessed by elders, accepted by ocean spirits glowing in the dusk. Sense the weight and weightlessness of that object, half tide, half snow cloud, spinning gentle as a slow heartbeat. Tuck that feeling under your ribs, equal parts warm and cool, so the hush inside you becomes deeper still. Yet another lantern. Now we see Maui striding in with bravado, almost cracking what balance required, then learning softer ways and gifting a breeze-fed ice sail. The embers of a bi-elemental campfire flicker along his smile, orange rising, blue sparks falling, sending faint pings of comfort across the night. Even demigods, the lantern whispers, can choose gentleness over strength when hearts guide them. Let that lantern float on. One more glides forward, the convergence rift, auroras bending down to meet warm stars, a mirror sea that asked for surrender before passage. Watch Moana's chant rising like steady drums, while Elsa's snow sphere spun protection. Then see them release control, trusting the canoe to drift on quiet purpose through illusion and doubt. Notice how the water beneath grew still once trust outweighed fear, like muscles unclenching after a long day. There's a final lantern still bright, waiting to drift. Inside glows the silhouette of Elsa stepping onto a winding ice stream arched above hushed water, Maui's gift sail catching balanced wind, Moana's fingers lifted in silent salute. As she rises, frost constellations trace her path, settling into sky maps that future navigators will follow. Behind, Motunui's breaths turn to perfect twilight breezes, never too hot, never too cold, shaping a home that remembers her friend in every sigh. Now release that lantern too. Watch its reflection stretch until light melts into the mirror sea. All images slide away together, forming one seamless ribbon before slipping under the horizon of your mind, leaving only gentle darkness and the echo of calm. Breathe once more, slower this time. Feel how every inhale brings the soft hush of water lapping wood, and every exhale drifts off like a snow petal caught on low wind. Let your shoulders sink, your hands soften. Your eyes, if still open, may notice the ceiling above you has become its own night sky. Perhaps you see the faint swirl of Moana's spiral meeting Elsa's snowflake overhead, fading slowly like phosphorescence after a boat has passed. If any thoughts still flicker, imagine them as tiny frosted leaves upon the deck. A gentle ocean breath sweeps them overboard, where they dissolve into easy foam. Nothing else to hold, nothing else to steer, only drift. Before we fade entirely, hear one last whisper carried by balanced winds, from Motunui's heart pool and from Arendel's silent fjord at the same time. Thank you for listening, Voyager. Thank you for dreaming us together. Their gratitude settles on your skin like dew. It weighs less than a feather, but it stays, reminding you that unity of differences is possible with every patient breath. And now the narrator's voice grows soft, softer, nearly gone. Sea spray and snow kiss blend into a single hush the size of sleep. Stars dim behind eyelids gently closing. The canoe rocks once more, barely perceptible, just enough to bring you to the shoreline of dreams. Rest, drift. Balance breathes for you now, across oceans, across seasons, across worlds. Good night.